Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Burn This Podcast. You might hear Jackson barking in the background. He deserves to be heard as much as I do. Hey, guess what? You're hearing from me, but I don't have an album for you this time. Breaking format a little bit to have a conversation with a really good pal of mine, JT Habersaat, who runs the Altercation Comedy Festival, where two people on the label, Sari Belliak and Kristen Leidy, have both recorded their albums. JT is a longtime homie. He tours the country much as I do. He creates opportunities for people. He has also written an amazing new book, Doing Time, Comedians Talk Stand-Up, and it is an oral history where he interviewed something like 70 comedians and cut up everything that we had to say and put it into like a little book about what comedy has actually been like for those of us that are like working class comics, which is very much in line with the ethos of what we're trying to do here at the label. In that way, like JT and I are kindred spirits, and it was really fun getting to hang out with him. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with JT Habersaat about Doing Time, Comedians Talk Stand-Up Comedy. Available now for purchase. Buy a physical book, leave it out. You can flip through it and see all sorts of names. I talk about some of them in the book, and it's just a real love letter to stand-up. And if you're listening to this podcast, I know you love stand-up. Otherwise, why are you listening? Anyway, enjoy my conversation with JT about his book. All right, on to the show.
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn.
This podcast. JT, you're in my home.
Again! Hooray!
It's so exciting.
I know. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah.
I always love seeing your skeleton out there.
Me too. It was down for the fires. Because I laid it down because the winds hit 100 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
But I put a sign on his foot that said, "Not broken."
Right.
But
in hiding.
Yeah, exactly.
Sheltering in place.
Because I have several toddlers in the neighborhood that are like, "The skeleton!" They wave to him every day.
Awesome.
It's very
cool.
cute.
Have you seen the giant werewolf they started doing?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Brandie's going to have a werewolf soon, I think.
Believe me, I have a trailer park HOA is the only reason why.
They say one monster per
One
yard?
monster per yard. That's all you get. One 12-foot monster per yard.
right.
Because I do also have a 3-foot skeleton on my porch. Mm-hmm. And around Halloween, I have 2 6-foot skeletons that do come out as well.
But that's holiday specific, so
Yes.
they have to give you a pass of
Yeah.
a certain amount.
Exactly. Yeah. But for the
Yeah.
year round, just one big boy in the back.
I feel like they'd let you get away with the werewolf if you did it, but it also sets a precedent for other idiots that then,
Yes.
not that you're an idiot, but like
No.
people that'll take advantage of it and then like erect
Yeah. No, 100%.
a Statue of Liberty in their backyard or something.
Yeah, and then we can't have that. And then what if there's
Right.
like a 12-foot Trump or something? And then
Right.
it's like, okay, we can't.
Right.
And then it's my fault that it happened. And it's like, no. Okay, so I'm fine with just my skelly because no one has stepped to his riz yet. And I think everyone's just happy for him to be the one in the neighborhood.
And I mean, you could argue he's Trump also. You could be a 12-foot dead.
Yeah, sooner or later. Can I tell you, I've been doing a bit on stage where I play Fuck, Marry, Kill with the audience, and I do Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk. And it's
God.
just a way that I can say the words "kill Elon Musk" on stage.
Every once in a while over the past, I'd say 100 days, on Instagram, I keep getting that Whitest Kids You Know sketch where the guy is just like, it's illegal to say kill the president.
Yeah.
So I'm here to tell you it's illegal. And then they just
Yeah.
go through that whole, it's so goddamn funny.
It's illegal. But we're not here to talk espionage.
We're not, even though that guy died under suspicious circumstances. Also,
there's a lot of deaths that don't. Man, someday we'll get to the bottom of it.
that one they just said weird accident.
Yeah.
Which was very like,
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
a conspiracy guy, but that one was a little bit of an eyebrow raise.
Yes. No. There's definitely a few that make me go, oh, I
Little
don't
Michael
know.
Clayton-y.
Yeah. Havana syndrome. What happened? You know?
Right. Exactly.
Just came and went.
Yeah. Totally.
You don't have an album coming out on the label, which
No.
is traditionally the reason why this podcast happens. But we've made an exception this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you're a longtime homie. And also now a published author.
I know it feels weird. It feels weird. It feels good, but weird.
Are you like, is your posture different now?
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed the monocle.
Yes,
the
I
monocle
have.
is new. The
Yes.
cane that I spin.
I thought you were just doing Mr. Peanut cosplay.
Yeah, I left the top hat off because I thought it might be too obvious.
Yes, you are in a trailer.
Yeah.
A monocle was quite enough.
Monocles. I actually have 2 monocles, and they're called glasses. No,
Yeah, I'm rich in monocles.
Yeah. No, I mean it's you know, it was a very, very fair deal and everything. And it's the first time in my life I got like an advance of some sort.
That's
but like
nice.
it's great.
Yeah.
And they've been awesome. Jawbone Press out of London. They've been amazing to deal with.
Let's just say real quick, the book is called Doing Time, Comedians Talk Stand-Up.
Yes.
By JT Habersaat.
Yeah. It is a oral history of comedy from the 90s on. So contemporary. Because I didn't want to do
The 70s.
the history thing, like in the 80s, everybody had a, you know, like I've heard so much. It's been so done.
I know. Sam Kinison did cocaine.
And like, you know,
yap.
God bless Lenny Bruce, but I don't need to hear another fucking thing about it. Like, and so I really didn't.
We can all buy the newspaper,
right?
You know,
right. And so it very much is less on the historical part and more on just the in their own words part.
Yeah.
You know, because I was just talking with your fellow Rick, and I had given him a book called I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, which is Warren Zevon's book. And that's a really good book, but that's an oral history kind of also, where it's just like so much more revealing than a biographer writing. The first time I met Warren, it's like, I don't give a shit, dude. I don't care about your
paint the picture,
insertion
put me in the
of
place.
you into the thing.
Yes.
And so that's why I've always loved oral history books. Like Please Kill Me. They did an oral history of ska that I haven't read yet, but I hear that's
great.
Really, did you read it?
It's It's,
you're like, I have it right here. I believe you. It's around.
It was in this office as of a week ago.
I was like, if anybody's read it, it's either Brandie or Brian Ziola. Like either of them have definitely read this book.
Yes.
But that looked really good.
It's really great. I love it as a format too, because I think it is fun just to kind of hear people's own words and hear different points of view of something too. To be like, oh, that same event seen from different perspectives,
right?
Or like, you know, going through something from as a different kinds of people going through the same period of time and the same, you know, trials and tribulations or whatever.
Yeah, so that was kind of the goal. Was like just straight up like, and it was a maddening process because I had to interview everybody, and there's like 60 comedians in there, and then transcribe the whole thing, and then break it down into the pull quotes of like what was important, and then put together like a 500-page mixtape of that, and try and tell a narrative story through that. So the nuts and bolts of putting it together were overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you just give everybody a different color?
Well, see, it's funny. We're here in your podcast studio. And I'm looking at like I knew that you're like a color coded person and that you do all that type of things. I'm looking at all your calendars and how organized it is and everything. And I, for better or for worse, I just do all that, but in my head.
Oh, see, I can't do it in my head.
I'm the guy that like I know my calendar right now for the rest of the year and where I'm going to be and what.
Rick's like this shit too. I can't. I don't know what's happening tomorrow.
I keep a calendar. Yeah. And it's a written one like this. I write it out. I don't use like Google Notes or anything like that. But for this, I just knew like in my head, all right, this is it was almost like assembling a set. Like, this is the task I need to do first, and then I do the next thing first, and then and once I had everything transcribed, I was like, all right, well, the work's done. And I was like, oh, no. The work's just starting, my man. Because putting it together, I didn't want... I talked to 2 publishers before I landed with Jawbone, and they wanted it, but they wanted me to kind of dumb it down.
Okay.
They're like, how about if we have like just a whole chapter on hecklers, and then people can just skim and jump to that? I'm like, I want to... That takes away all of the... Not to sound hoity-toity Mr. Peanut, but like curation of the book, you know, like, it's very intentional the way it's supposed to weave through, and you're not supposed to know, it's supposed to feel like one long conversation, you know?
Also, can we stop leading with hecklers? Like, can we just stop to being like, oh, comedians talk about hecklers? I'm like, I got in this to talk about me. I don't care about them at all.
It's the thing that they know. It's like the number one. How do you know? You've done press.
Yes.
It always comes up because, and I don't get a lot of hecklers because I don't engage with them and I don't do crowd work. It's like if you have something to say, if you give them a back and forth opening, I get helpers, not hecklers.
I did a show in Cincinnati. Shout out to Wayne Mamont.
The Comet
did his great show.
Yeah, Wayne's great.
And last week, and I had a woman who at one point raised her hand very
sheepishly,
polite, and I was like, yes. And I'd been talking about millennial shit or whatever. And she just goes, the Nokia brick phone. And I was like, what about it? She's like, we had those phones when we were kids. And I was like, yes. Okay. And then I was like,
My first comedy show.
Yeah. And I was like, I appreciate that you've contributed. Do you hear how that ground everything to a halt? We're all just going to move on.
Yeah.
And then she raised her hand several other times in the show. I just didn't call her. And then at a certain point, I was like, I'm not interested in whatever you have to say because I don't want to get bricked again.
It's not a Q&A.
No.
It's not a TED Talk. Like what?
Yeah, it's like, find me at the merch booth after, girl. I'm good. I'm good right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting, and not to sound too old man waving his peanut cane, but it is a degree of people, I don't know if it's social media or what, but the audience, they feel like they need to be involved in a way. So that's what I mean. I don't get hecklers, I get helpers.
Yes,
so if I mention offhand, Tom Waits or something like that, they'll be like, swordfish trombones, or say, they have to chime in like, I also like the thing and I'm part of it now.
Yeah, hipster Tourette's,
hipster Tourette's, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But anyway, basically they were like, how about that? How about a whole bit on, punching down? And I was just like, I don't want a book that people can read. I mean, it's meant to be able to pick up and put it down easily, but I don't want people to just read the chunks that they're interested in and then bypass the rest, because that kind of takes away the whole point of writing a book. So for better, for worse, it's real long. It's almost 500 pages. It's like 155,000 words. And you're in there a bunch, so thank you for...
No problem. You sent me a PDF, and I did look for my name and read all
What a comedian!
I was like, let me double check all these quotes, make sure I still agree with everything I said 2 years ago.
Oh, that's the number one thing I'm finding right now, which is so funny, is comedians going, oh, awesome. Wait, what did I say? And No, I intentionally, because I'm a comic, I don't want anyone in the book coming off looking like either it's something they regret saying or feels edgy or starting some shit. I would not present my friends in that way.
Of course
not. Not that I'm good friends with everyone in the book, but they're all at least peers that I know in some regard.
Well, something that I really do love about the collection of people that you have in this, and it's like, I literally just opened a page randomly, and you've got Henry Rollins, Dana Gould, Todd Glass, Bobcat Goldthwait, and Mac Lindsay, just within like one page.
Yes.
I just did another one. We've got Matt Bronger, Adam Caton Holland, Genevieve Rice, who runs a great festival.
Bird City,
Madelana Martin, Kristen Leidy. Shout out to the label.
The wonderful Kristen Leidy.
And it's like, these are all homies.
Yes.
And they're of a like very, I think, cut from the same cloth as like what we're trying to do here at Burn This.
Working class comedians.
Yeah, working class comedians with like pretty decent hearts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna...
Not a single Nazi in the whole book.
Yeah, it's wild how
it won't sell well,
it's
unfortunately.
Wild how you can do that if you just try a little. I didn't... And there's some people in there that, look, I've been to Skankfest and shit like that before, not as a fan, but as like with Eddie, because they book Eddie sometimes.
Yeah.
I have plenty of friends, Sean Patton, who is a great guy, Joe DeRosa. These are dudes that I will stand by and defend to the end of time, because they're great comics and they're good dudes. They just kind of roll with that crowd a little more than I do. And so I didn't want it to be insular. Like, I wanted voices that aren't necessarily all agreeing in the same way. So I wanted it to be a good cross section. But people that have, and I mentioned this in the author's intro, I said the biggest thanks I have for the comics appearing in the book is thank you for giving me the most precious currency that a comedian can give another comedian, which is your cell phone number. Yes. Because, right? I saw a shiver just run down your spine. Because if a comic gives you your number, you do not breach that trust, right? No. You do not become a punisher. You do not, you just treat it with the respect it is.
Yes.
And so every person in that book, I talk to on the phone in person or set it up via a text that, because like you, I have a lot of, the less chefs in the kitchen industry wise as possible, the better for everybody. And so I didn't have to go through publicists. I just called these people up and said, hey, would you be willing to be in this thing? And, and one or two people that I didn't know super well were a little, I said, okay, fine. Yeah, it's cool. I'm not going to chase you.
Yeah.
So there's plenty, and there's other friends that, there's people like Jim Jeffries, who's kind of a pal, but Jim's always in like Jakarta or like, he's always like in Egypt or somewhere doing a show. So trying to nail those folks down was just, I would have loved to have talked to David Cross. I know him kind of peripherally, but it just was too much doing.
Of course.
And so, but to your point, yeah, I didn't want to. There's a lot of names people will know. There's a lot of names people may not know. But all of the people, I think by the end, have equal footing in terms of like the respect you give what they're talking about, because they all do it.
For sure. And I think that really speaks to also like the community of like this level of like working class comics, where it's like not everyone is a household name. A lot of these people are household names, and everybody is chasing that to a degree. But we also all do hold ourselves to that level of respect for each other. Because
yes,
you know, I mean, I'm very thankful to call a lot of the bigger names in this book, like, you know, friends or like good acquaintances too.
Well, you connected me with Maria Bamford. I mean, it was after we did our interview. I was headed up to where Savage Henry, and I got a call from Maria. She said, I just talked to Brandie, and you know, so that's how that happened. So thank you. I mean, it's also exactly that. It's referral. You know, I had run into Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall.
Oh, legend. Yeah.
So amazing. Yeah. And we kind of hit it off. And he was one of the first people I interviewed and gave me this incredible, revealing interview. And then I was like, hey, if any of the other kids, and from that I got Kevin McDonald, and from that I got Bruce, because they all recommended me to the next Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
And so.
And Kevin, you've now had on your festival too.
Yeah, Kevin did Altercation last year and killed it. It was so great. And
it's awesome.
I mean, Bruce, I've always respected him so much. And we talked for like, I don't know, about an hour. And he said, you know, this was great. I'm out of time, but if you need to have any follow-up stuff, we'll do another one. Like they were just so generous.
Yeah.
And so, but also, you know how it is. I kept myself out of the book 100%. Like you'll see no mention of me in there aside from the author's intro. But because I'm a comic, I could ask questions that weren't just from a journalistic, you know. Yeah. So where do you get your ideas? You know, or what, you know what I mean? And some of them had to be broad. You know, I remember interviewing Stanhope, and he was like, what is this, for fucking morning radio? You're asking me some softball pitch questions. I was like, yeah, dude. But here's the thing. Like, I know this is a hard thing to understand. Not everyone in this book may be familiar with you. Yes. You know, like there's people that very much may know you and Maria Bamford, but don't know Stanhope. And there's people that are going to know Stanhope and Joe DeRosa that have never heard of you or Maria Bamford. Yeah. And so I said it has to be broad in certain regards, but I wanted it coming from a place of not appearing basic. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. Yeah. It's like you're a fellow comic. You're an insider just by way of being a fellow comic. So like you're already like, but it's good to be aware of not talking shop to a degree that people don't know, or it's too insular.
Too insular. One of my favorite quotes in the book is from Jay Chenoyne, who's my buddy and tours a lot. And he said, talking to comedians about comedy is like petting a cat. Like they're totally into it until they're absolutely no longer into it. Oh, It's like that just nailed it.
Yes.
Completely. But also exactly what you're saying. Like I didn't want to get into, I mean, it covers stuff like industry gatekeepers, and you know, it actually talks a lot about your story, your process of getting a show sold to TV, and like how the trials and frustrations of that.
I outlived you, True TV.
Oh man, I mean, there's a whole chapter in there on the Grolics.
Yeah,
you know, which is Adam Caton Holland and Ben.
Also on True TV.
Exactly. And I mean, I was on tour with Ben Roy when he was getting those calls, like trying to negotiate the final season, and how it looked like every day he was going to like his hands hit with hammers when he would have these conversations. And so there's a degree of that which comedians may relate to a little more, but I didn't want it to be technical.
No,
you know, there's no like, because a lot of people, and I don't know how long, like when I left about 10 years ago now for my last desk job and said I'm going to be a full-time comic, it's like you're saying I'm going to go be a astronaut, a superhero. Like it's.
Hey everybody, breaking into the podcast with a really cool update that I'm super proud to bring you. We here at Burn This Record are going to be on Warped Tour this summer. We have 7 comics from the label that are on the 3 different Warped Tour weekends that are coming up this summer. So if you are in Washington, D.C. on June 14th and 15th, Long Beach, California, July 26th or 27th, and Orlando, Florida on November 15th or 16th, come out. We have a guest list. We have an amazing lineup of comics. It is myself, Brandie Posey, Anna Valenzuela, Kristen Leidy, Joanne Schinderly, Lisa Curry, Zach Peterson, and Kevin Casey White. 6 of my absolute favorite comedians. I'm so stoked to get to perform at Warped Tour, a place that really shaped me as a young little DIY punk kid, and getting to do comedy there is actually a dream come true. So if you are in DC, Long Beach, or Orlando this year, hit me up. I'll comp you. Come hang out. All right, back to the show.
So there's a lot of people curious about the realities of.
Well, and I think this is such an interesting period of time to do it in too, because it's like post 80s boom, like this is like the scrappy generation of comics, and I feel like a lot of like the 70s books are like, and then I said Waka Waka and I got a TV show.
Totally.
And which is great. I'm so glad that some people made money in this industry. So happy for them. Right. But like, we are just in it for the love of the game and trying to make a living and being like, this is because I think the stakes are what they are. People are also like, my integrity matters.
Yes.
More than like selling out. And
there
are people that are doing that, obviously, whatever, but like, they're not happy.
A lot of them aren't. It'll
be interesting to see what the next version, and which also, this also has the beginning of like social media and shit too. The next one of these that comes out for the next 15 years of comedy is going to be fucking wild. It will be written by AI.
Yes, I was going to. Well, that's the other thing in there. I've kept this book so under wraps.
Yeah.
To the point now where I saw Henry Phillips and Jackie Cation yesterday, and gave them both copies of books, and they're like, "Oh, right," like because like everyone's got goldfish brains and so. I kept it though really under wraps because I was worried about that.
Yes.
Shit gets stolen all the time, ideas wise, and there hasn't really been an oral history style comedy book.
No.
And so I was like, someone is going to catch wind of this and pump out an AI version overnight, and then I'm going to look like I came up with the idea second, and it's going to really piss me off. So I was real tight-lipped about it until it was basically
go time.
Sold and ready to go, and now I'm going to be so annoying all this year talking to people about it,
as you should be, also as everybody in this should be.
So far everyone's been awesome. I mean, Pepitone wrote the introduction forward.
Good for you for getting him to sit down at a keyboard.
Well, I tell you what, like that, I tour that all the time, and so. I said I need it in 5 months. I gave him a very long lead. We were laughing about this yesterday. Cause I just know it takes, when people have a lot of stuff going on,
of course. Yeah.
So it was great to get Eddie to do that. But, God bless whoever writes the next one. Cause it will not be me. Shit. This is my third book, second kind of comedy oriented. And I think it's my last, this is my love letter to stand up. Like after this,
that's what I was just going to say. Here's the thing. I don't know that another one of these will come down the pipe because this is a love letter to like a stand-up and a community.
Yes.
That I question the future of a new version of that.
Yeah, because it's, the things that are putting asses in seats are TikTok comics or what, or any of that, or competitive kind of punching down 1 minute spot shit that I don't understand. Well, I understand the appeal of it because it's like the Tupperware party of comedy. You know what I mean? And it's like it's like a pyramid-y thing, and it's great business. Yeah. Like there's no denying the numbers.
Great
and you're doing Madison Square Garden, fucking good for you. Bad for comedy to me. It hinders the things. Not that everyone needs the same path by any means, but it hinders. You can't do anything in 1 to 2 minutes on stage that's worthwhile, and it's not how you grow and how you develop. So it's just the way comedy is right now, and what's very, very popular. I'm also a snob and a purist, which I fully admit. I'm a pure. I get annoyed. Some shows I really like. We were talking about like the Stone Drunk Sober. Like that's fun. I've done that type of stuff. You have your show. Picture this. Avery Moore does the joke of painting, which is like a Bob Ross type thing. Like I like themed out shows like that sometimes. Corey David does a really fun one I just saw in Denver. That's like people get up and talk about the time they were arrested, like just kind of crime stuff. So I like that, but I've always fucking hated you're doing stand-up, but you're in your underwear.
Yeah.
Or like you're doing stand-up, but people throw shit at you. Or I'm like, comedy is hard enough.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're just making it clowning spectacle. Like you're taking any sort of inherent dignity out of this form that I love so much. Like, could you imagine people throwing something at Richard Pryor or like, get the fuck out of here.
It's wild to me that I'm like, the guy, and this will sound very funny with stand up, but like, I refuse to be debased in this career.
No, that's completely correct. Yeah.
And I'm just like, when I see it happen, I'm always just like, what?
Yeah.
You got no self-respect?
Yeah.
man, because
Yeah.
you're also, it's so much of comedy is also, you are in charge of the moment, so you are handing control away to,
you're adding an element of like making it harder. Like, why would you do it? And so, I don't know. This very much was my best effort to kind of document what stand-up, I think, I don't want to say should be, because that's just my lens, from kind of a person with a microphone on stage approaching an audience, and that's it.
Well, and I think also and it is worth really hitting again, like the working class comic element of it, because I think that like the industry just like promotes a chosen few to, and then that is like who gets all the hype, and then or if you're an open micer that can say slurs,
Right.
But there are so many of us that like are doing it for the love of game and grinding it out and making decent livings at it too,
Surviving.
and and it's important to like highlight and celebrate that too.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely,
yes. Because the public too. I mean, less so now, because you can get on one or two podcasts and suddenly have a large people exposed to you. Someone like like a Sam Talent, which you can just see the difference, the pre and the post, in terms of certain exposure. But there's plenty of people that are, it's their gig for the year, but unless you're Seinfeld or something, people are like, well, it's either Seinfeld or not real. Like you either like do that for fun on the weekends, or you know what I mean? There's no concept from the general public, and the term civilians feels a little kicking dirt, but you know what I'm saying? Like people that just don't know, it's an alien world to them, aside from they may like stand up, in terms of the realities of like, how do you how do you do that? How do you pay rent? And
what does that mean? Yeah, no, I remember talking to Dana Gould one time, and he was like, I think of comedians as craftsmen. Like we are similar to like the building of houses, and like that is like it's about developing these very like more concrete skills than you think of. It's like, he's like, artist applies sometimes, but like craftsman feels more right to me, because it's about like a series of, I know that this will equal this if I need to learn that thing over and over.
Well, that's what was so eye-opening to me too, which I kind of knew this anyway from just hanging out and talking to comics, but like documented in the book is that no comic has the same process. No one. Yeah. It's completely unique for everybody. Every single person. I've never, some people have to recite it in the mirror with a hairbrush. Some people write out the whole set. Some people, I mean, I don't want to give out specific names. There's a big name in the book who I went to see them, and they had written out their entire new hour word for word, and were going over it like a script, and then delivered it flawlessly. Wow. Like I would not have guessed, but like I could never do that. No, I could never do that. I have written a set list for every show I've ever done with just bullet points, like not stuff, but like bullet points. I have never stuck to the set list once. I just use it to have it there as like bullet points. I've never done the set verbatim. I never write out bits. I write out like a broad concept of a word and then go, but anyway, the point of that is just kind of being like, it's fascinating to me to see everyone has the same end goal, which is to crush. Right? That's the end goal is to do the job and get the best response possible. No one has the same process to get there, and that's fascinating to me.
That is so fascinating.
It is really wild. And you have people like Bobcat talking about how he used to have hard times coming up with sets, and then he had this like Yoda-like experience with like Robin Williams or someone where he's like, dude, you're funny inherently, just go up without a net and just try and be you. Yeah. And it was like a game changer, like flipping of a switch.
There's always that interesting moment with stand-up where, like, especially when I'm watching other comics, I can see it happen now too, where you're like, you are funny, you just don't know how to be yourself yet.
Absolutely. You can, I think that's a thing that comics that do it like we do it, like as it's for better for worse, it's our careers, is that you can see a younger comic or a newer comic and you'd be like, they've got the thing. Like, it's not all the way there yet, but I can instantly recognize when you're like, they've got it. Yeah. It's going to get there. And there's been certain people I've seen, let's see who comes to mind. BK Sherrod out of Denver, or Hannah Jones out of Denver. There are people that I'm just like, I've been watching them kind of develop over the years. I'm like, they just, they're younger than me by a decade. And so
Yeah.
they definitely are more cued into the social media aspect of things. Like they know how to do reels and stuff very effectively, but like they just have it. They've got that thing. Avery Moore. She's
Yeah.
got the thing.
Yes, she does.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's like, even if some sets are uneven or even some crowds don't understand them, I'm like, they're going to have at least a working class career if they want it, because
Yeah.
they've got the thing.
Exactly. And everybody in this book has got the damn thing.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's been really fun just to like open this randomly and be like, oh, Chad Daniels, Carmen Morales, like Greg Turkington, Doug Stanhope. Like, I mean, just a real murderer's row. Hey, my Brandie Posey.
Brandie Posey. My criteria was anyone that I can get to directly on my own. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't want to. And some of that was a little referral-y, you know, but like by and large, it was, because I didn't want to cold call anybody or, you know.
Do you like that you've set yourself up as the Kevin Bacon of comedy? Is what you're telling me with this book?
You know, it's so fucking weird. It has become that, because I recently, last summer, I toured with Lydia Lunch, which was really amazing and rewarding, and also difficult because like her audience are elder goths that are not necessarily prone to laughter, and so it was a really good test for me. It went good, but it was, I had to lean into my story stuff and whatever. But from Lydia, I had this weird I had this Kevin Bacon thing with Alf now,
Okay.
which I
Okay.
so
Hell yeah.
so Eddie, who I tour with, used to date. Did you ever see the film Permanent Midnight?
Oh yeah, Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
Yes.
So Eddie, a long time ago, used to go out with Amy Stiller, which is Ben's sister.
Oh.
And so I've met Amy back in the day, and I've never met Ben personally, but like there's a weird connection there. Like I've been,
I broke Ben Stiller's sister's heart. I broke her heart.
so then I was with Lydia in Brooklyn at like a reading thing, and Jerry Stahl, the actual heroin addict who wrote for Alf, who was like played by Ben Stiller, was there.
Oh my
and so
God.
I met him and picked his brain about Alf for a while. So this is weird, like
Wow.
Alf thing. But yes, also, I mean, the thorough through in there, as much as I keep myself out of it, is that these were people that I could talk to on a peerish level.
I like it. You got to be the puppet master.
Yes,
Like
very
these-
much so.
These are the thoughts that I would like to get out to the masses. I know my friends agree, so I'll just lead them.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a mixtape curated with a lot of intent and a lot of respect for wanting to get it right.
Do you consider yourself a DJ now?
Well, I worked in radio before I did comedy, so yes.
Damn.
But not in a
yeah.
not in a
This is not a shock jock book. It's not a shock jock book.
right. Yeah, it's not a Zoo Man in the morning.
Yeah.
That's very funny. I hadn't thought about it that way. But yeah, I don't know. Mixtape is the best way I can describe it.
No, I love that. Like I said, I've pecked around a little bit. I've read all my passages. I still stand by them. And I also like just, you know, I looked through it a little bit before and really was enjoying this. And this is like also it's going to be a fun thing to look back on. Also, it's like, I'm so happy to have it just to be like.
That was the other thing, in that I really wanted it to be like, there's some talk towards the end of the book about COVID and what people, because some people quit and some people had to restart completely, and some people just gained perspective of like,
Yes.
I've been working too hard, or you know, what's really important, and all those sort of things.
Every true artist I know, COVID was like a fucked up blessing of like, oh.
Mine, yeah, I don't. When it was finally winding down, I said it wasn't the worst part of my life, but it was the hardest.
Yes.
Because it was a lot of recalibration.
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
I said, if you came out of COVID and you're not a different person,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with you. Like
No, you just ran the entire
yes,
time.
exactly. Like if you didn't do some dark introspection and kind of recalibrate. So there's a little bit of that in there, but otherwise, I really intentionally wanted it evergreen, because it's the type of thing that I want that in 10 years, new comedians, or even just people that are, you know, interested in stand-up as a form, can ideally pick it up and get something from it.
I mean, 100%.
That was my hope. That was the goal for me, is to make it not, that the shelf life would be long. Because, I mean, Please Kill Me was written when I was in college, you know, in the early 90s or whatever, and I still revisit that book sometimes just to, you know, go through the early CBGB scenes and all that sort of stuff. And most of the people in that book are fucking dead, but it doesn't make any difference in terms of the impact.
Yes.
You know, when you read Lou Reed's voice, you're still hearing Lou Reed.
Well, so that leads into my last question.
Yes.
Who will be the first person to die that's in this book?
Oh my God. I'll answer that.
Yes.
Let me think. As much as I love him, there's a degree of me that says maybe Stanhope.
Yeah.
Just because Doug is so unapologetically him.
And he did run to Ukraine into a
He
war
went to the
zone.
fucking Ukraine.
Yeah.
He eats like a bird. He doesn't, he lives on vodka. And so, maybe Doug, and for better, for worse, cigarettes are part of him. He's tried to quit a million times, but just,
No. He needs them at this point.
So, and also I was in his celebrity death pool for years as a pal and competitor. So like he would not get mad at me saying that at all.
No,
but maybe Doug, most of the people in there though, and this is sad, but people that I otherwise would have interviewed that have kind of like lunatics like that, like I would have spoken to Sean Rouse. They're not around anymore. There's a certain degree of, if you're going really that living it to live it, I don't know, man. Like it's.
I'd be curious to know how many people in this book are sober.
A lot.
Yeah.
More than you think.
No, I mean, I do know.
Yeah, I would say, well, I mean, off the top of my head, you're more or less sober, right?
Yeah.
Eddie,
Kristen
Leidy, Genevieve Rice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Sari Biliak is or not, but kinda.
I think she is.
I don't think I've ever seen Sari drink or anything.
Yeah.
Matt doesn't drink. Matt Alana Martin, I don't think doesn't drink.
No,
so
he's sober. He's sober.
There's plenty of people in there, and there is also moments of, very funny quote from Joe DeRosa, because Joe and I bonded over drinking.
Yeah.
Because we can both handle it. Like we just bonded over it.
Of course, yeah.
And we both were at this bar during a festival, and we looked around. We're like, we're the only ones not sober in here, and it was very funny to us.
Yeah.
But he has a thing in there. He said drinking got me on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
He's like, I was up in Montreal, and I went to every one of those open bar parties and schmoozed my ass off, and that helped me open doors.
No, it definitely helps. Yeah.
So there's no, but to answer your question, I would say at least 50% of the people in there are now sober or very moderate,
cut back,
or California sober, or whatever.
Cali sober.
Yeah.
And that's not like not a judgment on anybody or whatever. It's a thing that I notice very often in comedy now, especially with working class people, because you're like, it's so funny because this is a touring person too. People always like want to buy you drinks and want to do everything every night, and you're like, I drove 8 hours to be here.
Right.
I have an 8-hour drive tomorrow. And I have at least 1 hour on stage tonight that I need to be at top form.
Right.
I need to be hydrated. I need to eat relatively well. And I need to have slept okay.
Yeah. My rule for myself is I always have like 1 or 2 drinks before the show just to loosen up a little bit. And then post show, once the work is done, if I don't have to drive anywhere, or I can Uber back to the hotel or whatever, then I'll do whatever I feel like doing.
Totally.
But it's also case by case, because when I'm out with Eddie or, Brian will have a whiskey once in a while, Posehn, but typically we're not really drinking. We'll smoke some weed and stuff. But like, if my buddies aren't doing it, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to be over here getting hammered.
Yeah.
Well, this is not, the way it is. The way it is.
Amazing stories that people remember being able to tell in this book.
There's a degree of that as well. There's definitely, but what also is something that I now that I'm thinking about it, there's some people in there that are maybe in their 20s or early 30s, but most people are 40 or pushing 40 or older than 40. So there's also a degree of just like got their partying out of their system or realized what works for them or what didn't work for them, and just,
they know themselves.
Yeah. Because my whole attitude with any sort of substance stuff like that is just handle your business. If you can do whatever works for you, rad.
Is there, what's the best substance to consume this book with? You think?
For me, a glass of whiskey on the rocks and maybe a joint.
There you go, everybody.
That's it.
That is your
That would be the ideal
your prescription.
Yeah.
To go right along with Doing Time.
Yeah.
Comedians talk stand up.
And doingtimecomedy.com has the links. You can buy it straight from the publisher, and that'll ship in July.
Amazing.
I have a select amount of copies that are being shipped to my house to be like signed, mailed out, early release copies, and there's a link off there as well. The same, just doingtimecomedy.com. Awesome. You can get a little earlier.
Do you envision an audiobook where you do impressions of all of us at any point?
That has been the number one question. What's the audiobook? I'm like, the amount of rights and clearances would be fucking insane. And also that, like, me doing Bamford's voice or Eddie's voice would be hilarious to me, but there's no way. I mean, never say never, but like, it would be so much work. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I don't remember who I was talking to, But they were like, yeah, but dude, you already have them all recorded. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. But that, could you imagine going through finding the pull quotes that are in the book and then assemble? That gives me hives just thinking about.
You did it. Here's
read the fucking book or don't.
Read the.
That's where I'm
JT
at.
Habersaat, read the fucking book or don't.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, everybody. It's good for your brain to read, so you should do that. And go to doingtimecomedy.com to get your copy today. It's an absolute delight. You know it's a fucking delight because I don't have people in this podcast that aren't promoting an album.
That's true.
This is breaking from format. I recorded and edited an extra podcast episode that I didn't have to do because of this
you're
book.
an angel.
Yes.
An angel of comedy.
Well, I wouldn't do it for anybody, but I'd do it for you.
You're the best. I do have a special out that it's very hard to find.
Yes. Go find JT's special.
Yeah. Go find Swamp Beast on 800-Pound Gorilla Records. It's out there, I promise.
Where else can people find you on the internet?
JTComedy.com has all of my links and tour dates and stuff. I'm going to be on the road in June with Pepitone in Denver, and where else are we going? Pittsburgh, where you just were, out that way, and Cincinnati. And that's the main way to get in touch with me if you need to.
Yeah.
JTComedy.com. But doingtimecomedy.com has all the book stuff.
Hell yeah. Get the book. Go see JT. It's an absolute delight, and I'm honestly extremely honored to be in here. No bullshit.
No, thank you for being in there. It
felt good.
It's very important to me to represent people that are doing impressive things in a very autonomous way outside of industry norms. So, I mean, everything you do with the label and everything is super impressive and heartening to me. It fuels my tank in a good way. So thank you for doing everything you're doing.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. We're both full of gas, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.